All right, testing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let me just ask this. Can you? So somebody answer back. All right, cool. Don't know what happened there. So, wow, I have to repeat everything I just said. All right, well, that's good. I mean, it always works. I'm Spirit 420 because everything I do is so 420. So 420. Just like technical difficulties. Apparently, some reason the mic was muted. I don't get it. I didn't mute it. Sometimes it's those beautiful things that keep us going. Wow. So where, oh, okay. Well, I'll just start over. So I hope everybody is having a wonderful Saturday. Number one, I hope everybody's having a blessed weekend and staying lifted as always. I myself am having a pretty good day. I wouldn't say it's off the charts, like one of the best days I've had. And I don't want to jinx it based on the last 4 months of my life. So I would just say it's been a pretty good day. One of the things that I thought I would do, I was trying to decide just maybe an hour ago what I was going to talk about tonight. And it's come to my attention, as well as, people have brought it to my attention. But, things are constantly evolving. And what I used to do when I first started this was I would tell stories, right? And people really seem to like the storytelling, get a lot out of it. They enjoy the stories and whatever. Plus, it gives you a little bit more window as to how I came to my views and why my perception of things is what it is, right? And it's funny because just a real quick, because this is not the show. I am going to tell the story of my trip to Mexico. But I did go see, so just a quick flick dick reinvestigation. I did go see Titanic today. Back in 98 or whatever the hell it came out, 97, 98, 25 years ago. It was not in 3D. And there wasn't a lot of us going to IMAX because it was pretty expensive and not everything was. I don't even remember if Titanic probably was, but I don't remember. What I do remember is we saw it and it was fabulous and it was spectacular and all that. But, my wife and I wanted to go see it again. So we did. And it's kind of funny because the same time frame, general time frame, I'll say this: when Titanic came out, I was not a father and I wasn't in love. And by the time I took my trip to Mexico, I was a father and I was in love. So, a lot, changed, but it was still around the same time frame, if you will, right? I wasn't 30 yet, but I was in my late 20s. And I remember Titanic was huge. And I'll just take a quick note. It was huge. And it was very clearly, it was really cool, the nostalgia. And I love it when the theater that we frequent here will do a lot of these old movies and rerun them, right? Before Skylar died, we went to go see Matrix again, which was really awesome because that came out at a time when my boys weren't going to see movies, right? They weren't alive when Matrix came out. So we've seen quite a few. We went to go see National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That was a fucking blast. Hopefully next year we'll see Elf. Just didn't have time this year. So there was obviously the nostalgia part of it, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But I was surprised. I hadn't watched that film in a while. And I was a big advocate of it. It's kind of funny. Almost every time Cameron comes out with a movie, and it's not because I'm a Cameron guy, he just continues, in my opinion, to hit home runs, except they wear on you. And what I mean by that is one of the only ones that hasn't for me is Aliens. I still love Aliens. But many times his movies get so played, even I am guilty of it, that I play them so much where I get tired of them, right? And that happened to Titanic. By 2002, I was sick and tired of Titanic and ripping on it, right? Regardless, actually had a blast. There was still times, it is a 25-year-old movie, so there was some cheesiness to it, and I was watching it at times, being the real film detective that I am, and all I could see was the set, right? And we all know they built this tremendous set. I won't get into that or any of it. Of course, I will say this: the ridiculousness of the time that we live in is that more was spent making the Titanic, and I'm talking about even if you convert the dollars back to the turn of the century, 14, whatever, or 1912, whatever. I can't remember the exact date. My apologies. If you turn back the time and do, the dollars in the comparative value, we still spent like 5 times more on making a film about the Titanic than the Titanic itself. Like just a ridiculous amount of money. So there is that part of it, but all I could see many times was like, Leonardo and Kate Winslet just in a set doing something, running down this hallway or running through here. And it was, so there was that part of me that, just being the movie detective that I am, right? But aside from that, it got me again. I'll say that. It was enjoyable, and what James Cameron wanted to do besides the ridiculous love story, because I really, I watched that as like a side note to what actually happens, I always thought right from the beginning, one of the best things they did is how they had the 3D model at the beginning and wrote that into the story. So you knew what to expect, and you knew kind of a timeline of when it was going to happen too. So, watching those things this time was much more enjoyable, and it still got me, no offense, but a lot of people perished that day, and it all happened in less than 3 hours, and it's insane, right? To me, the whole thing's insane, and there are no coincidences. This was a slap in the face to humanity to be like, look, you're getting bigger, you're getting badder, and you're getting great, but don't think for a minute that you're that great. We can just chop you down in a heartbeat, right? So I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I suggested if you have the means, it's funny. I told my son, he's like, "What a waste of money." And I was like, "Well, to each his own." He doesn't really care for Titanic, but he's 22, so you can imagine. Moving on. So, first side note to this story, because I know, most people are probably not like me. That's an understatement. Most people probably have done more than what I have, because I'm 50 years old, and I was even, a drug dealer for a large portion of my life, collectively, 10, 13 years, whatever. And I've never been out of the country. The first time I went out of the country was in 2001. The only time that I've left the continental United States. I've never even been to Hawaii or Alaska. I have been from coast to coast. Been in both California, been in New York, Chicago, all over Florida, and all over the East Coast, really. And now, live in Colorado, but only left the country just one time. Now, the backstory of this, I was already in business for myself, and had recently expanded my phone room. I had what's called a marketing company, but it was just basically a phone room, and we sold schools all day, and just sold them supplies. It was really pretty easy, because we would also give them something free back then. To give you an idea, I was giving those what was it, Ion, I think was what they called them, Polaroid cameras. Do you remember those iZone or something like that? But they were the ones that they were instant, but they were stickies, right? So I would give those cameras away to these principals, and then they would spend money with me, budgeted money that they had to spend anyway, and that they're not even spending now. So it was great, because I would put them on what's called 90-day open billing, right? Give them 90 days to pay. Anyway, company wasn't doing well. When I made this move, I made a couple poor decisions strategically in regards to being able to get enough salespeople. And I moved a little bit outside the bus line. It was a big deal when you're talking about Asheville, North Carolina, right? So in a as a measure to try to save the company and get some more money and do some other things, because I was going to just do old school flipping of electronics. And remember, this is 2001, so it was very well known that if you just did a little bit of internet research, that you could go to Monterrey, Mexico, and get your hands on a lot of, legitimately, legally, get your hands on a lot of electronics at cheap prices, and then bring them back over and resell them. Right? So, my buddy and I, who I called T-Bone. Now, just I have to digress. At the time, I did not have a license still, and I hadn't had one for at least 10 or 11 years. But T-Bone had a license, and I had a car. Now, even though I didn't have a license, I still drove everywhere. Just it's a long story, and that's a whole nother. I have to do a whole show on driving without a license for 13 years as a dealer. It's a whole another animal altogether. But there, I knew there was no way that we would be able to cross the border, because you have to show your license. You have to be a licensed driver. So we thought we had it covered. I had the vehicle. We could have taken T-Bone's truck, but instead we wanted to take the Pathfinder because it would hold what we were carrying better, right? So we're going from Asheville, North Carolina to Monterrey, Texas, or Monterrey, Mexico, which also meant a good portion of driving through Texas, obviously, because that's where you cross over anyway. Now, the first thing I'll tell you, I'd never been to Texas. I'd never been to Mississippi. I'd never been, at the time, I'd been up and down the East Coast, and I'd been out to California and seen a lot of things in California. But when I was a child, like 5 and 6 was when I was out in California. So even though I did go to the Redwood Forest out there, the memories are, thin. We'll just use that term. So it was all quite an experience, and I was having a blast. And believe it or not, even though T-Bone had the license, I was doing, if not more than half of the driving. We would pretty much, though, make sure that, because we did have pot with us, and this was at a time when it was highly illegal through all of these areas. But anytime we were smoking, then T-Bone would be driving, just because that made it, a little bit better if the guy that was driving had a license, right? Regardless, we ended up getting there in pretty good time. I think we got down to, so if you're not familiar, going to Monterey, we knew the quickest route was to go not just through Texas, but specifically to Laredo, Texas, which takes you right into Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, right? And then from there, it's just pretty much a straight shot to Monterey with a lot of other small towns in between. And by the way, I believe everything happens for a reason, so we weren't supposed to. And you'll hear about that in a minute. Part of the story is we never made it to Monterey. We got down to Laredo, Texas in about, I want to say in about 36 hours or so, give or take. I might be remembering it somewhat incorrectly at this point, but it seems like it took us about a day and a half. And just straight driving, I don't think we even, I don't remember getting a hotel room, not until we got there. But the first thing that happened is as soon as we got over, and this was late at night too, that we were just traveling through. So it's like 11 o'clock at night. And we go through the border just fine. And then there's a checkpoint, probably, I want to say maybe 15 miles or so outside of Laredo, there's a checkpoint. And then it just, you have they're military checkpoints. It's pretty freaky. Dudes with AR-15 standing there pointed at your car, and you're like, am I going to get through? Well, to make it real short and sweet, we got to that checkpoint and realized that we weren't going to be able to go any further because T-Bone was not the registered owner of the vehicle. Well, we turned back around, because they told us to, and we weren't even going to argue. And we had pot on us too, which still was not good, even down in Mexico. Just wasn't good in the sense of getting caught with it. And we get down to, or we turn around and we go back to Nuevo Laredo, and we had to wait till the next morning. We were like, we'll go and get a, what do you call it? Mexican registration. By the way, unfortunately, I am starting to break a sweat and I'm starting to feel nauseous. So I'm going to have to cut this episode short. I do apologize. I will pick it up here on the next episode, which will be see, I'm literally, look at that. I think it was the kratom, if I'm being honest. So nobody worry. It's just nausea. Usually the marijuana keeps it from being a problem, but it was on an empty stomach and I'm drinking this coffee. So either way, I do apologize, but I will be back Monday and I'll finish the story then. It gets pretty interesting. Let me just say that, and I'll save all the good stuff, because we ended up spending basically 72 hours in Nuevo Laredo, and what a 72 hours it was. With that, though, I hope you all have a blessed evening. Truly do. I will be fine. I do apologize. This is not normal, but I'm going to have to go and probably sit down and drink a cold glass of water or something like that, or I may end up getting sick, and I really don't like to get sick. So, hey, live television, what are you going to do? It is what it is. I do apologize. Each of you have a blessed evening and a blessed day, and I'll see you on Monday.
You can't have my phone number unless we running up the digits. Let me meditate, I just need a couple minutes. Tryna low bomb me, my cojones to the big ass. Bitch, I get high. I ain't looking at the clock.